All righty, welcome in everybody. Welcome into our spring 2026 edition of Pláticas Poderosas. Super happy to be here with everybody today. We have a very special one for y'all. Hopefully everybody is ready. They got their popcorn, their snacks, and we are going to jump into it. So today our plática is called The Legacy in Action, Career Talks, with your hosts, Angelica and Manny, and some very, very special guests that we are excited to talk with today. Before we kind of jump into our plática, as we always do, we'll kick it off with a couple of, housekeeping items, community agreements to start off with. Today, to set the tone, we are here to learn, right? We are going to be having a conversation geared toward careers and, internships, what that looks like, kind of navigating the world of, you know, work and graduate school and all of that. But really, we are approaching it with an open mind and hoping to learn from folks that have been through it and that have gone through that experience. We also want to make clear that we respect different viewpoints, even when we disagree. While our journeys may not be the same, everybody is still here. We are working towards, our goals and our passions, and we hope that, we can have those responsible and respectful conversations. Some topics that we talk about today may also feel personal, or challenging, so definitely take care of yourself when listening. I think that, it may elicit certain feelings of, you may be going through some of the things that we talk about today. And if so, then just make sure that you kind of, question, self-reflect, and have folks to talk about with. If something resonates with you, continue the conversation in a thoughtful and respectful way. And then finally, if language or examples feel outdated or harmful, we welcome reflection and continued learning.
Oh, which kind of leads us to what is Pláticas Poderosas, the purpose. Side note, y'all, I have the Target background because it was my first job in community college. So I thought, let me pay tribute to Target for shaping me into who I am as part of my career journey. Um, so yes, so for those who are new to Pláticas, this is a space where we like to highlight different stories, spotlight dope individuals, and talk about things that don't always get talked about enough. And today that is around career, which could kind of be like a really scary and intimidating thing to think about, depending on where you are in your own journey. And I feel like we're all kind of in different points in our careers. Um, yeah, so we hope to offer different perspectives. Um, and as a disclaimer, so when we talk about careers, I think wanted to make note that we're speaking from our own experiences and perspectives and want to acknowledge that my journey has been shaped by my certain privileges, economic systems, and opportunities that not everyone has had access to and have benefited from, and right having the support system. So just wanting to make note that everyone's path will look different and also around like we're all in education too right now, and if you feel like this doesn't directly relate to your specific career choice or journey, we still hope that you can still resonate with the lessons learned no matter what your major is. Yeah, and that kind of leads into, well, we have some really special guests who are here to share their journeys and offer their different perspectives from their points of their careers. And I'll let them introduce themselves, but really excited to have Kim, our one of the PSP counselors, and our give you some lore, our PSP, former PSP supervisor, counseling
Mm-hmm.
supervisor for Manny and I, and Matt too. And then Matt, who's our current PSP graduate counseling intern. So really excited to be in community together. So I'll have you all want to introduce yourselves? Shit.
You want me to go first, Matt? Do you want to? Okay, cool. Um, as Angelica mentioned, thank you for having us here. I'm Kim Davalos, very excited to be a guest on your podcast. Um, yeah, especially in this space, definitely one of those full circle moments to have a space with the three of you and to talk about career as well, especially in this career that I think all of us are so passionate about. Um, my context is my first job. Just kidding. My first job was a hostess at a local restaurant in Stockton, California, where I was born and raised. I went to San Diego State for my undergraduate, changed my major like 5 times, landed on counseling, went to graduate school 2 weeks after I finished my undergraduate program here in the Bay Area at SF State and finished my master's degree. And then I went straight into and got recruited into my first full-time job at SF State. And then that also then landed me to Skyline a few years later. That's the Cliff Note version. I also like to dabble in the creatives, the arts of different kinds, which I think is kind of part of my own counseling brand and philosophy. And I am a fur mom to a 6-year-old Frenchie, a human mom to a human year and a half son. And yeah, that's me. And I love snacks.
I don't even want to go anymore. That was so good. My story's not that amazing. No, I'm just kidding. So, oh yeah. Oh, I forgot. My name's Matthew, Matthew Embry. He, him. You could call me Matt or Matthew, both work. Maddie could work too, potentially. Um, if my first job, oh wow. Yeah, I worked at Zoomies, you guys know, in Ceremony Mall. I didn't enjoy that job too much, but I'm not there anymore. All good. We live and we learn. Well, not after that, but for higher ed at least, I went to Skyline College. Get this, I was a Promise Scholar. What? What? See, the program's amazing. I'm here. I hope I'm evidence of it. My counselor at the time was Kim, and now my supervisor at this time is Kim, which is great. Which is
You
great.
can't get
The
rid of me.
promise. Pretty much, the promise has been kept. The promise is fulfilled. Anyway, after I did have to get kicked out because I got to get a degree and stuff, I ended up going to CSU East Bay, earned my BA in what psychology. Yeah, 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 super cool stuff. After that, I skipped some jobs in the middle, but whatever. After that, I ended up working at Skyline in admissions, then left to go to grad school, SF State. More legacy right there. A bunch of SF State counseling alum in the house, all of us.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I entered at College of Marin last year, and now I'm back here, back home where the fog's at. Um, and that's my intro slash mini story. Whoa.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. And yes, I always like to say that, well, first and foremost, thank you again, both of you, for being here today. Um, Y'all have been a major part of my journey as well. So, we'll dive into it, but, very appreciative of having you all and just getting the opportunity to learn a little bit more about your story. I always tell my students that our story is our power, and whether we know it or not, all of the decisions, all of the jobs, they shaped us and they kind of formed that foundational piece to that kind of guides us and holds us up to where we are now. So, yeah, amazing to hear about those first jobs. I worked at Burger King, my very first job. I don't know if I mentioned it, but yeah, customer service, I hope on point because I've been working in service since I was like 16. Um, but uh, I'd love to kind of dive in a little bit deeper. Y'all talked a little bit about it, but I really want to hear, we talked about how we're all in counseling, we're all counselors, and kind of what went into getting to that point, right? bachelor's, graduate school, and all of that. I'd love to hear a little bit more about, what were some of those moments or decisions that kind of led you to the counseling field, right? Was it always counseling, or did it kind of come about through the roller coaster of those decisions that you made? And I don't know if who wants to kick us off, but the floor is open.
I'll kick us off. Yeah, this is a great question, Manny, because man, I wanted to be a nurse. Deep down in me, I think I still do. So originally, of course, Kim knows all of this. I wanted to be a nurse mostly because of, I would say, cultural pressure and the familial unsaid pressure. My mom's a nurse, my brother's a nurse. Feels a bit natural here. My uncle's a nurse, and if I choose not to, oh no. But then I had a first appointment with Kim. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Because we started watching like some Joe Coy videos. I was like, I want to do this. This sounds amazing. This is so fun. And then Kim was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And pretty much from there, I was like, "I want to be a counselor." Was there moments in between of me questioning that, especially post undergrad? Absolutely. Yesterday, maybe. I'm just kidding. I'm too far to go back. But yeah, that was kind of the journey. Was like, "Yeah, you're so cool, Kim. I want to do this." There's more context to that, but I
Way
want to
more
give
context.
space. I want to give space. Yeah, Kim's already talking. How about you?
I mean, that is a very, very shortened version of Matt's journey. But I don't think it's just because we watched Joe Coy. I'm sure there's other things in there. Um, for me, this is one of those questions that I've reflected on before where it's really hard for me to answer, and kind of my own theme of my career really has always kind of been um like for us in the graduate program, we know about planned happenstance. It's kind of like planned happenstance really is the idea that you're ready for the opportunity, you're prepared for the opportunity, and you're open to it. Um, I mean, I mentioned that in undergraduate school, I changed my major multiple times. Um, so I initially went into hospitality and tourism management, which is what led me to San Diego State. Um, and I always say, like, don't knock what is the things that makes you want to go into what you want to go into, because I wanted to be like J-Lo from The Wedding Planner. J-Lo was hot back when I was in high school. Her movies, the rom-coms were on fire. And The Wedding Planner takes place in San Francisco too, so or like Northern California. So I always knew I wanted to come back to Northern California in the Bay Area. So I was like, I'm gonna be her. I'm going to be planning weddings that are in the Golden Gate Park. So I went into that major and then ended up not getting advising, ironically. I just kind of put myself into my own classes, and I signed up for 19 units in my first semester. And that was a mistake. I really, really was overwhelmed in my first semester. I took majority business classes for the HCM major, was doing really, really bad. And I also hated the fact that this program required us to dress up in button ups and like suit and ties, which was a big thing for me to realize, like, wow, I don't want to be in a job where I have to be told what to wear and how to look. And that was a big thing for me. And then that made me change. Long story short, I tried different things. Again, I wanted to like be the like representation, right? Like I wanted to also be Lisa Ling, who was a news reporter at the time. So I went into journalism. Didn't like that either. And then I landed on psychology because I was basically having a lot of my own mental health, personal struggles, being so far away from home. I wasn't actually ready for that. I didn't realize I wasn't prepared for it. And so I was really struggling mentally as well, which landed me into psychology to be interested in my own brain and my own stuff. And then planned happenstances, when I changed to psychology, they also were advertising that they had a new minor through their counseling graduate program open up called counseling and social change. And that's what landed me into that minor. I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. And I ended up loving the minor. Um, along that time too, at San Diego State, my parents were like, please get free housing however you can, which meant work on campus, which meant work in the dorms. The dorm I ended up working in had academic mentors, which basically were like paid peer advisors. So you were a peer advisor, you did academic advising to get your housing for free. So I was doing that at the same time as I landed on psychology. And I think that combined was kind of like what led me to look at master's degrees in counseling.
Nice. Thank you all. Yeah, thank you for sharing, y'all. And I really like to hear just what, how y'all kind of came to this point, right? And it wasn't just a linear, straightforward, oh, I'm gonna do this and okay, that's the path. Which, some folks that's great. That's how it works and beautiful. More power to you. But a lot of the times, and I think, I've had these conversations with students, we kind of go into it and we might not necessarily 100% know what it is that we want to do, right? You go into college, that first question, oh, what do you want to major in? Oh, what do you want that career to look like a few years down the line? Like a deer in the headlights. I remember me when I first started at Skyline, and it's hard. It's hard. There's a lot of pressure there to kind of, have it figured out when you're still figuring out yourself. So I like that you both mentioned that, it wasn't always counseling or it wasn't always higher education, but through those experiences, you were able to come to these um, to these careers, right? Um, I heard planned happenstance. I also heard pivots in life, right? And familial and cultural expectations, which we'll kind of get into a little bit later today, which are all factors that go into your story and into your decision making, which I think is great. Yeah, I think similarly, I always say I changed my major like officially 3 times. I changed my mind 100 times. And then when I did finally get like choose a major, even afterwards, I got my bachelor's and I still pivoted and transitioned. So it's good to hear that, you know, it, a lot of folks kind of go through that similar, like that similar path.
Yeah, I'm like same. I changed my major a bunch of times. And I think I went through my JLo phase too. I'm like wedding planner through films, like different experiences or being exposed just to different pop culture too. I'm just like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do this. Um, but then I also feel, yeah, like through higher education, I've met a lot of different folks who um, have changed my trajectory as well, and that it's okay not to know and to trust the process. And feel like there's also this myth that we have to know what we want to do with the rest of our lives. And I think that there's this pressure that I hear from students, but then also still that I feel myself. And I'm like, no, like it's okay not to know. And that our lives things are constantly changing. And we're shaped by so many different things, including our family, culture. So kind of leads to the special segment that we have. So behind the scenes, y'all, for the viewers, we did a intercultural exchange of snacks and goodies and treats. As a fun way to get to know each other a little bit more and connect because we know how important when it comes to career, um, right, the importance of family and culture, and the messages we received growing up and how that's all interconnected. So I thought we could do that now as we're kind of chit-chatting, be munching on some of our
Yes.
snacks.
Did you
Yeah.
see? I was already starting to. I was like, I don't know when we're gonna
Yeah.
start. And
No,
I
yeah, let's
keep
start.
smelling these like nut chips.
Yes,
I had to
these
start eating.
or which one? No,
The
these. Yeah,
those.
yeah. I guess I could get started since I have the mic. So mine were like a bunch of candy, but I actually don't have them with me. I forgot to make one for myself. So if
No.
anyone wants to show, but I was thinking and reflecting about how this all interconnects to like my career journey. And to be, I guess, a little silly and fun, what I've presented, what I've brought to the group, all these little candies, Mexican candies and snacks. I also have a cookie, the chocolate. Um, I think it's kind of a blend of the little bit of like sweet and spicy. And that's kind of been what my journey's been about, as like a Latina, first gen professional navigating the unknown. And that I bring these flavors into, or try to bring these flavors into any space that I'm in. And I try to be my authentic self. And I think as I've been navigating the world of work, my culture, my values, my younger self always is with me. So it's trying to stay, thanks y'all for, yeah, the chicles. Yeah, like these were things as a kid that we would have at birthday parties, little sweets. I made my mom make those cookies. I was like, please, mom, like make make me some. Yeah, so it's like harinas. They're a little bit of they're sweet or should be sweet. Um, my mom is an almond mom, so maybe she didn't add sugar, y'all. So apologies. Um,
Do
but
you
yeah.
do,
Oh, go
do
ahead.
you want us to try each of them? Because
Please.
I don't have the
Or
ones like I don't have the ones that I gave out either. But do
oh,
we want to like try them?
yeah, if you want. Yeah, no pressure.
How
Um,
do I eat this one? It's the Duvalin.
Duvalin.
yeah.
Is this like a pudding?
Oh, the Duvalin. Oh my gosh, does it come with the spoon inside? Or
No, I
no?
don't think so.
Here
Oh,
I am just
interesting.
I never used the little spoons either. I
Yeah, I
did
never
exactly what
used
Kim's
it.
doing.
I feel like it feels better to do it. It feels right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it tastes
That's what
better.
we would do as kids, yeah, or still now. But it's just chocolate, right?
And then if you get it under your fingernails, you have a little snack for later.
Oh my God.
OMG. But yeah,
Mm.
this and the tamarindo. What are those called? Yeah, the
The
little,
pulparindo?
yeah, the tamarindo. So a
That's
little bit
that's the
of the
one
spicy.
that's the one I already ate. I couldn't
So
control myself.
good.
What did you think of that one?
Well, like me,
Mm-hmm.
well, I was telling y'all before, I grew up on, and I'll share that on my part. I grew up on these, especially the pulparindo. So
Yeah.
it just tastes like childhood to me.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that I'm trying to when I think about my career, like tap into my inner child to never stop. I think, y'all, like I've stopped. I don't know. Like I feel like I've lost that little Angelica. And with adults, right? With life, just like I forget of like to tap into little Angelica and the joy. Right. And so I think I'm like, as a reminder, just like remember where you come from, have fun, keep dreaming, don't stop dreaming just because I reached my goal of like becoming a counselor, right? Um, but to always keep growing and challenging myself. And I think, yeah, that's the piece that I'm trying to tap into with these things. Yeah.
Yes, that's so good. This is so good.
That's the one
Yeah.
I ate.
Have you tried it before, Matt?
They're so
Not this one. Like I've tried like the lollipop. This one is
Mm,
Oh,
like the pure good stuff. It's
yes.
yeah.
dangerous.
They're
Dangerous.
dangerous. Yeah.
Sorry, I totally just wanted to just say that. All
No,
right.
yeah. But yeah, those are my snacks. Well,
I love it.
hopes it brings a little bit of joy. I forget what else. Yeah, those were the main ones.
Yeah, I think Angelica brought the pulparindo,
Hmm.
the pelon,
Yeah.
pelon pelo loco, Duvalin, the little chicles,
Mhm.
the paleta, the pollito asado,
I love those.
and
Yeah.
then the abuelita hot chocolate. So this
Yeah.
one,
Mm,
this
Yeah,
one,
have hot chocolate later.
yeah, drop it in with some milk or something.
yummy.
But just put a little piece, I
Mm-hmm.
think. I don't think it's the whole thing.
Oh, I used to do the whole thing.
Isn't it? I don't
Well,
remember doing it the whole thing.
we would
Everyone's
make a lot.
different. I
We
mean,
would make a
yeah,
lot though.
that's true.
Yeah.
But I brought the chocolate because that's what my dad would make. I think before or after work. So I
Hmm.
always remember that, like my dad making that.
Mm.
He was
Yeah,
one of the first people that I was exposed to who had a like a job. So
yeah, but I appreciate you, Angelica, kind of tying it back to, just like your upbringing and that message of not losing sight of yourself and who you are. I think, like you said, it's so easy to kind of forget um with like going through the motions of everyday life, paying bills, being an adult, working, having to have it figured out. It's so easy to forget yourself and what you truly enjoy, what you're truly passionate about, right? And when it comes to, especially like considering our students, like they're busy. They got jobs, they got class, they're trying to figure out internships and all of this. Like there's so much on their plate that it is so easy to kind of lose sight of why are we even doing what we're doing, right? Um, I guess I
um,
could kind of go into why I chose the snacks that I chose, and very similarly, right? Very similar to you, like this is what I grew up on, right? When I want to feel nostalgic, when I want to remember, my upbringing, like these are the go-tos. I see Angelica is holding up the gansito and the paleta payaso, like one, my mom loves gansitos. Like those are her go-tos. What she
so
likes to
good.
do is she puts them in the freezer for a little bit. They get frozen, and it's kind of like a frozen Uncrustable in a way, right? Bomb. Paleta payaso, what Kim's holding up right now. That's I just remember being a little kid, either like my grandparents or my parents taking me to the store, picking out a paleta payaso. What that
Where they're
is.
from.
Yeah, it's like a marshmallow covered in chocolate, and then there's like gummy candy on it that makes a little face. Um,
And sometimes we be clowns in our careers in life. So
exactly.
Wow,
this is funny.
this is dangerous.
Mm, yeah, that's my one of my favorites right there. I think I also brought what else did I bring? The cucharitas, which
Hmm.
is similar to like pulparindo, but in like a different format and consistency in a way. And then the mazapanes. So I would say out of all of those, mazapanes are my go-tos. Like those, I could probably finish a box of those in a day. I'm not gonna lie. But mazapanes, those are kind of like, shoot, what even is a mazapan?
I honestly, yeah, I just know they're good.
I don't even know what it is. It's just kind of like like not even brittle, but like it's a
I'm like, viewers, let us know in the chat.
yeah. What do
What's
you think? What do you think of mazapan is? It's just good. There you go. But I hope that y'all enjoy the snacks of my childhood. Yeah,
It's also good. And I'm going way beyond my calories today, and it's worth it.
it's okay. Did y'all want to go next, Kim, Matt?
Want me go? I go.
I'll have Matt go because Matt basically brought all the snacks on behalf of us. I have one that I wasn't able to get to you guys, so I'll just explain mine at the end.
Okay. Yeah. So what do I even have? Oh yeah, let's start with that chippy. I picked these because I like the names of the snacks. Do I even like them? I don't know. I haven't tasted this one yet. I'm just kidding. So I got chippy. So this is a very popular Filipino snack. I think it's popular because my mom eats it a lot. So every time we used to go to Pacific Super when I was a kid, we get chippy. I like to call it like Fritos meets Doritos, but it's
Yeah, I was gonna
barbecue,
say
you
it's like a
know?
Frito, but different.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Oh, my
good.
Yeah,
mom likes this. Yeah. We're
yeah,
going
they're
like a bit more the
dangerous.
salty route.
Mhm.
So, covering the whole palate.
Mhm.
Oh, what should we do next? Oh, oh, let's do the this one. Oh, it's not showing.
These are the
Yeah,
ones
this
I
is
kept
like,
smelling.
oh, interesting. These are like corn nuts. The reason why I like this is because the name. Everybody say it with me. Boy bawang.
Boy Bawang.
Boy,
Yes,
Boy,
wow.
perfect.
bawang.
It's just like I don't know. I
Oh,
like the name. Boy bawang.
Why
I
is
don't
it
know. I
so
love
hard
it.
to open?
Oh, really? I don't know. Because they're so good. Yeah, this one's
Ooh,
pretty much like a corn nut, but it's a bit more easier to bite into than corn nuts.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be hard to bite, but these are good.
Hmm.
I'm making a mess over here.
And these are garlicky, garlic
Hmm.
flavor, one of my favorite flavors.
These are dangerous too. Another
You
dangerous
know,
one.
what else do I have? Let's do pillows. You know what? I actually tasted these earlier and I was like, they don't hit the same. This is my childhood snack, kind of my sweet treat. And my mom would buy this for me all the time. And then when I would go to whatever supermarket would sell them, she would say, I buy that for you, but you have to do one thing. I said, what? She said, be a nurse. So she stopped buying them for me. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Imagine.
geez.
I'm just kidding. She loves me. She loves me. I fell out of love with these pillows. They don't have the same chocolate flavor as I remember, but I will say this. Bretman Rock loves these. If you guys know Bretman
Really?
Rock,
I love
These
yeah,
are
yeah.
good.
Bretman.
He has a whole video on Filipino snacks. Maybe we'll put that in the description.
Yeah, we'll tag Bretman
Yeah.
Rock.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll
yeah.
try to get
And
a
he'll be our
collab.
next guest.
Let's get a collab.
Yeah, we
That'll
gotta
be
get him.
great.
We gotta get him on the pod.
Yeah, this was my childhood favorite pillows. I didn't bring the other one. It was called sweet corn. I couldn't have too many sweets, but that's what I have. I think the other stuff is like flakes. Oh, sky flakes. What a classic. Oh, and hot
Chocolate?
flakes. We're in the flakes territory. This is this is more so don't think about the flavor,
Oh,
it's about the nostalgia.
And the
It's almost
packaging
like
that you
yeah,
keep.
it's really like a saltine cracker. But this was the one. I don't know why.
Well, this comes back to this. Skyflakes makes me think of Joe Coy. Isn't it Joe Coy, Matt? That he does a whole bit on Skyflakes containers.
Oh, he does. Yeah. So Skyflake, sorry, I'm just gonna steal the story. Or he does it with like Cool Whip too, where Filipinos, even I do this, we love to use any container and put anything in it.
us
So
too.
yes. Oh, that's amazing. We all do it. Skyflakes used to come in this like tin container, right? Or they still do. And then once you're done with the Skyflakes, shoot, that's what my mom packs my lunch in. So that'd be funny. But this is like a classic. Super, super simple in a good way. Just a simple cracker that tastes delicious that I didn't bite into. The last but not least, this one's a favorite, a Hofflake. Really interesting. After eating your guys' snacks, it kind of reminds me a little bit of your guys' snacks, but without the spice, without that kick to it. Yeah, those. They're like really small disc. I think it's plum. I'm pretty sure. It's actually a Chinese snack, not a Filipino snack. I actually can't even confirm if these other snacks are Filipino. I just ate them as a Filipino. Uh-oh. Anyways, yeah, Hot Flakes, it was one of my favorites. But also I had a cultural experience with Hot Flakes growing up. I shared it with my friends in class one day because I thought they're amazing that they spit it out. They're like, "What is this,
What?
Matt?" And it made me feel shameful of like Filipino food. I was like, "Oh, I don't want to open my container of longanisa anymore. They probably think it looks weird." But now I know they were just missing out. They were
I
just
have a
missing
story
out.
like that. That's, yeah,
Mm,
some trauma
Mm,
around
yeah.
that.
But we're here to heal that today.
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
now
I
you're a
remember.
counselor,
Yeah,
all
No
because of
counselor.
that.
The student brings
yeah,
hot flakes. I love them. Give them to me.
yeah, I
That's what
remember,
I have to share. Go ahead.
just like in elementary school, bringing, I forgot what I brought, and the kids made fun of me. And then I remember going back and I was like, Ma, I want like a peanut butter sandwich, like something American, because I was so embarrassed. Um, yeah. And looking back now, I'm just like, what, girl? Like, I've never made me feel like that. But Kim, do you want to go next? Introduce.
Sure. I'll just show mine. Actually, Matt has it at least, so he could try it. It is in the like Uparindo uh family,
Yeah.
but I couldn't find the company brand that I grew up on, which was the Lucas brand, but this one's the Limonazo brand that I could
Oh
find.
yeah.
I know exactly what
Um,
you're talking about.
by the gallons, I used to eat this. Like,
Wow.
probably not healthy. Maybe it is why maybe I am the way I am today. Who knows? But well, I think I always like to say my sour, salty palate that I like pickled stuff. I like sour stuff comes from my Filipino genes and background, but that's why I always like this. However, this also is like signifies my childhood when I think of snacks, because in this, like even actually this exercise activity we all thought of kind of like not triggered me, but it definitely brought me back to my childhood of which relates to my career and my own adult identity of I grew up in Stockton where I grew up. It was pretty, I'd like to think pretty multicultural in terms of I identify as a third generation Filipino American. My family, my parents don't speak any language. We all speak only English. Um, so I never had like the language connection. And then food, it was always more so like dishes. We had that. But when it came to snacks, I was like, oh, because my childhood, all my friends, I didn't have a Filipino friend until I was in graduate school, really. Like there were like a few around, a handful around in when I grew up, but not until I was an adult, like a good friend. And so I think this is actually really symbolic because I grew up like the ice cream man had all Mexican candies. Like that's what I grew up around. When um one of like my first heartbreaks of childhood I think of is when Selena died. Like when Selena died, I was like crying as a little girl because that's what I grew up around. So it translated as I grew up, even when I think of being at San Diego State and having those struggles and mental health issues and identity issues, I really, this outside adult world, like I remember going through the fair at San Diego State in my first year, and certain clubs wouldn't really give me attention if I came around, and then like the more like Asian focused clubs would like really talk to me, but I didn't identify with them. So it led me to really often be like, well, who am I? And if even if I identify in a certain way, does the world accept that? How I hear my lived experiences and who I see myself as and connected to. So that really struggled was a struggle for me as well. Um, and then when I came to the Bay, started graduate school, living and working here in San Francisco State and then Skyline, especially Skyline, it was like, oh my gosh, this whole thing about like who I never felt necessarily that I wasn't Filipino enough, but I often felt like, who am I? If now like I figured out my career, I love what I do, but now I'm back at this place where it's like one of the capitals of Filipino community, and trying to rediscover that again and find my way through that again. Even the hot flakes that Matt brought, he introduced me to them a couple weeks ago. And he was like, and then we were with some friends at dinner and they were talking about hot flakes. I was like, I don't even know what hot flakes are. And they did the whole thing again. What? You don't know what hot flakes are? How could you not know? And it's like, again. So it definitely represents the fact that when I think of snacks and childhood, I think of like Lucas and Mexican candies and not necessarily all of these things that Matt introduced. Yeah, so that's mine.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's just like so many different similarities, and I think, well, how much of that has shaped us, like you were talking about, Kim, and um, I'm also curious, well, our pláticas with our families too, like, was there any like navigating that? Yeah, how was that of like pursuing counseling? Is that something we all wanted to do, or I mean, you mentioned like the pivot from like nursing to higher ed, but I'm curious of like how those conversations were with our families, and I guess the culture piece of like that expectation.
Yeah, contrary to what I was saying, it was easy.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of it was difficult. That's the
Mm.
difference. I think, culturally, or familially, like there's just pressures that are not said out loud, as I was saying earlier,
Yeah.
that I was worried about how it would land. When the whole time I was like, oh, you do care about me. I'm just kidding. Of course they do, but they're very supportive because they just wanted me to do what I wanted for myself. And I think we both had an understanding because my parents were immigrated from the Philippines to here. I was very lucky to say that they were also aware, like, we don't know either. We don't, I think a lot of the time there's these beliefs of like, you do this career path, you do it this way because that's the right way. But with them, they had those in mind, but at the same time, at the end of the day, they're also very aware of we haven't went through it either. We don't know exactly what it's like. So there's a level of trust that they instilled in me. I don't know if I exactly earned it, I, but I would say I've proved it, hopefully. Um, so I think it's also that initial. It's more so it could be the idea of the conversation that not all the time, of course, at least in my experience, the idea was scary, but once the conversation occurred, it felt like this burden was lifted. I was like, "Oh my goodness, it wasn't that bad." Right? So that's how I was able to deal with it.
Mine was the same. So I didn't, it was part of a big part of my story, but I didn't mention it in my background of when I changed my major the first time from HCM, and then I think I changed it after that to journalism. That was like I think back to it's to this day probably the hardest conversation I've had in my life thus far. Because similar to Matt, it was the idea of it. It was anxiety for months of being unhappy in this major and knowing I wanted to change, but also knowing I was going to have to particularly talk to my dad about it. Because I was in a very fortunate situation where my parents had saved and sacrificed a lot of money over the years so that they could pay out of pocket for me to be able to go to school wherever I wanted to. But the deal was that I would do well in school, um, and do well in the career that I was going to land on. So I just remember I remember where it was. It was in the family room on our couch. And it was like I had to think of how to have this conversation for weeks. And then when I had it, he was like, okay, well, kind of, and like Matt, like we just want to make sure you have a reasonable like job that is gonna pay you well and that you can make a living. That's really at the end of the day what they wanted. Um, and so that's what I often say to students too now is, um, yeah, very similar to Matt too. What he said is that my dad went to community college and then went from community college, even still like today, into radiology technician. That's what his schooling and education background was. My mom, she got a scholarship to the 4-year private university that's in Stockton, University of Pacific, but she always jokes and says that she studied my dad. She didn't really take school seriously. So for them, it was like they didn't know what they didn't know. They just knew that HTM hospitality sounded good, that hotels are around everywhere. So similar. They were just like, well, as long as, and so I tell students now, I would come to my parents with information and I would help to educate them on, okay, this is what I'm thinking of as my career. This is what I like about it. This is how much it's going to pay. And if you don't know how to do that, students, like that's what we're here for as your counselors, is to help you figure that stuff out. And that's what I love to do now with students. So yeah, all to say it was more of a like really nervous to disappoint them, especially my dad. That and to feel like, oh, am I not holding my end of the bargain here? Like they saved so much money and sacrificed so much, and here I am, like not doing well in that first semester, unhappy, and gonna tell them that I don't want to do what I'm doing. But it ended up being fine, and I think it also transitioned our relationship from like a child to a parent to an adult to an adult. It was also that key conversation in our life.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing. And I think you both bring up a really great point that, I see all the time with my students. I don't know if y'all see it, but it's oftentimes like more so the fear and anxiety of having those conversations than actually like the outcome of what they are. And sometimes just laying it all out there and being honest and vulnerable goes so far. Because like y'all said, at the end of the day, your support systems are there to support and that they're gonna care for you and want to see you succeed regardless of whatever it is that those decisions are, right? And very similarly for me, like I I always felt like I had to go to college and get a career that, I was gonna make a lot of money in because of the sacrifice. But I never really had those conversations with my parents. I just thought like, oh, these are the expectations. But looking back at it, I was placing those expectations on myself. I was placing that pressure on myself. Um, so yeah, I think that it's great that y'all were able to have those conversations. I think another huge piece, and it's a good kind of segue into our next question, is what other factors go into that decision, right? So we have family, we have culture, community, society that all play a role potentially in informing our decisions. I think another one that's huge for our students is also the financial piece, right? So I'm choosing this career because I want to make the most money that I can, right? Not necessarily I'm passionate about this, um, but like this is gonna set me up for a very specific lifestyle. And I'm curious to hear from both of you, like how much did the financial aspect play a role in the decision of becoming a counselor?
I definitely have like things to say about this. It's such a good question. Um, finances, obviously, like yes, especially living in the Bay Area, like I knew I was going to need to make a certain amount, which actually brought me to community college, California Community College, because the pay is different here, and more affordable. Um, but I think that education gets a bad rap. It's not to say that it's true that educators are underpaid, but I think there are ways and positions that you can find that can still meet the impact you want to make, the passion and the pay. I think they are out there, and so I see. I'm actually really excited. This year, I've had a handful of Promise Scholars and Pathway Scholars that are looking more towards education, which is a good sign, I think, because before this year, I gotta say, it was like a dry spell. It felt like of students being interested in education because to live in the Bay and you always hear like that's a discourse, right, in society is, oh, educators don't get paid a lot, teachers don't get paid a lot. And so it like discourages younger generations from wanting to give back. So all to say, I think if that's where students are at and they're interested in it, are curious about it, but don't know how they're going to make a living, you figure it out, I think, and there are the means and ways. Um, the other thing that I think to consider, which I now, as a new mom, has been priceless to me, is the flexibility in schedule too. So it's not only thinking years ahead of what kind of career, but also is this career and how much it's going to get me in terms of lifestyle and access, but also if I ever wanted to have a family one day and that's something I value, or it maybe I won't have like it was also too like my side passions and creative projects I used to have before I became a mom. If I have these other things in life I want to experience, I also need to find a job that sure pays a good amount so that I can make a living, but also gives me the time and freedom to be able to change my schedule how and when I need it. Because for us in community college as counselors, we get the summers off. That's like almost 2.5 months. We get the winters off and we get spring break. So we get all this time off. And if we want to work, we can, and sometimes we do. Anyway, all to say, I just think that it is now as a new mom, I'm like, wow, being able to change my schedule around and work with people that understand that and want to support me in it while still being able to impact and do a good job in when I'm at work and be present and feel supported. I think that is a price point that I think that isn't a like monetary one, but it's so, so key in life for me.
Nothing to add. I think you said a lot of what I was going to share, and even Manny pointed to it. It's to me, it was more so what I valued. It was less so because I was trying to imagine, like, okay, what lifestyle do I want? What life do I want to live? And does the job or career I'm going for would it support that? All I want is a minivan with the sliding doors, and that's really all I want in life. Nothing more. I was like, yeah, I can make that
He's
happen.
not joking.
I'm not. That's my dream car, man. Sienna. I mean, that is it's an expensive car. Let's be real here, but man, them doors sliding is something else. I was thinking like about lifestyle and what Kim was saying. I think some of the things that depending on the career, like money can't replace that time off, the flexibility. I think there are things to make up, especially I'm at a different point in my career where I'm more so looking into what that exactly looks like. And at least for me, I'm already imagining how can I supplement my career with the time I have outside of it, whether that's financially or just I need a break, right? Or the other job I could have feels like a break from the other one in a sense, kind of pointing to like Kim's or creative realm or creative career in itself. So similar to what Kim's sharing, to me it comes down to really that key question: what life do you want to live? Um, and to me, it caters to how I imagine it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, y'all. And me and Angelica were kind of talking about it. You know, a lot of the times we place a lot of emphasis on our careers and that kind of it becomes such a huge part of our identity that oftentimes like it's hard to kind of take that out, you know, and take that piece away from us because it is such a big part of our lives, right? But then at the end of the day, like I I want to also highlight these other parts of me that mean so much. And yes, like money's important, you know, being able to provide and support, you know, your loved ones and make a living for yourself, but also what else is important? You know, family, you know, our children if we have any, so on and so forth. So, you know, kind of balancing those various different identities that we represent is important. So I love that. Thank you.
Feel I feel that immensely. I think I'm in a period in my life as well of like figuring out work life balance, and I've been so career and hyper focused on the career piece that I feel like it is so much part of my identity that without it, I'm like, who am I? The same question of like, yeah, this period of my life, am I without my job? Because my job is so much of my identity, but I don't want it to be because I'm like, I'm more than that. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, like the money, the financial, like, okay, thankfully have stability there. But now I'm like, yeah, who am I? I want to spend time with family and friends and have fun. And it's so hard. So I just think like all of these pieces that I'm like, I wasn't having those conversations when I was younger, or all I saw was hustle, grind, but at the cost of one's mental health and wellness. And now it's like on that side. So I'm just like, dang, there's just like so much that one needs to consider thinking about the lifestyle that you're looking for and the work-life balance piece too. Um, and I guess that kind of leads because due to time, just kind of to wrap up, curious, Kim and Matt, a piece of advice that you'd give to our students who are thinking about career, next steps.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
a little like a little side note that I would or a little more context like you know just kind of considering like where our students are right now, right? A lot of them, well, some of them are transferring and going into that next journey. Some of them are graduating with either their certificates or their degrees, looking for internships, you know, the next part of that journey. Some of them are just starting off, right? So what is that like piece of advice or multiple pieces of advice that you'd give to them? And also maybe like if you wanna approach it from the either roles that you kind of incorporate, right, Kim? You've been a supervisor, you're currently a supervisor, you're also a counselor. Matt, you're a graduate counseling intern, soon to be counselor as well. Well, fully fledged counselor, right? You're already doing the thing. But yeah, let us know. Let us know.
I would say I'll go first. Yeah, I think after this conversation, what it's leading me to, my main piece of advice, especially inspired by today, is kind of like the snacks. Like, make sure there's a diversity in your life of different types of kind of like we talked about in our Promise podcast flavors. What flavor of sauce are you? Kind of like that. Make sure you have different flavors and different types of elements in your life. Like career is very important, but like you said, but who do you want to be as a person? What kind of life do you want to live? Which includes career, but also what are the other things? Um, I think it's a curious take, not to say you have to, but if you could say instead, what is the career I want and how do I make my life mold around it? If you can switch it and say, what is the life I want to live? And who's the person I want to be or do I dream to become like? And how do I find a career to meet that? I would give that piece of advice and try that kind of reflection and see where it brings you.
Yeah, to add to that, it reminds me of like what I try to tell myself, or what I try, when Angelica was bringing up like all the hustle stuff, I was like, dang, that's so true. Like how I try to see it is career is not everything I am. It allows me to be everything I am. So something like that is what I really try to gravitate towards in terms of mindset. And especially even though my path seems like, oh, nursing, counseling, boom, it wasn't very linear mentally. It was like a lot of I don't know. It was a lot of am I really, am I sure? I think for me, what kept me going, even though it took a while to get there, and I think when I wouldn't say I was more certain, but I was more okay with the I don't knows was confidence that no matter where I'll be okay. And kind of what that leads to me thinking, I'm thinking like a deep quote. I'm not even gonna lie. I would probably say like confidence travels further than certainty, something like that. Confidence will lead you ways even though you don't know exactly where you're going. Um, that's what I'll share. Yeah.
Fire. Yeah, trust the process. Know that everything is gonna be okay. I love that. Um, Yeah, well, again, thank you both so much for your time and for your wisdom. I think, like I said, you two are two of the most powerful people that we know, and just trailblazers and trendsetters. The work that you're doing is amazing, and we wanted to make sure that we highlighted both of you so that our students know that, these are folks that have gone through it, that are doing it, and that they can go to for support as part of the Promise family. So thank you again for being here. We really do appreciate you and your time.
Yes, thank you. And shout out Kim. You changed my counseling career journey
No,
as my supervisor.
Yeah,
awesome.
same here. Kim was an amazing supervisor, and I always credit her with, you know, my my start and being able to now do what I love too. And then Matt, you're amazing too. I
Yeah,
always
you're amazing
think
too.
that, your perspective makes me want to like stay on top of my game. You're the questions that you bring into some of our one-on-ones, and I'm like, dang, like, Maddie's out here doing it. I need to stay on top of it. But I appreciate you both so much. Any final words before we go, before we head on out of here?
Just thank you. Thank you for having us and bringing us in and welcoming us. And all your kind words. I'm so proud of all three of you as well. Myself too. I was thinking about the other day. I was like, we need
Hell
to hype
yeah.
ourselves up more in
Mm-hmm.
life. Um, I'm walking away filled with lots of salt and sugar and love after this episode.
Put that on a
All
t-shirt.
love.
Salt, sugar, and love. I love that.
All
Ooh, I like
love.
that. flavors.
Mm. I'll share the screen for
Yes.
the QR code.
For our promised students, thank you so much for sitting in and listening till the very end. We will be dropping the attendance credit into the description of our video, but here is also the QR code for your reference. Thank you again, everyone, for being here, and we will catch you on the next Plática Poderosa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.